GM Growth Fam. Time for another episode. And honestly, if non-technical marketers like you and me can build our own applications tailored to our needs, what happens to the B2B SaaS industry? Hosted Beatriz Rodgers, who was the first ever security product marketer at PayPal, serving millions of users globally, trying to understand how she's building her own marketing stack from the ground up. We skipped past the general product marketing discussions and got straight into why a lot of marketers are debating whether to buy or to build. We broke down how to engineer practically your way out of AI slop. Why is it that today the smartest startups in the world are going back to old school marketing? We're talking guerrilla marketing days. And why is it that, honestly, we might be going into the era of agentic buying committees, where your target ICP will not be a person on LinkedIn, but context file that doesn't even have one. Enjoy this episode, and I'll see you very soon. Welcome to the show, Beatriz. Lovely to have you here.
What's up, Arnav? Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking out the time. I know you have your hands full, literally, with agents on one side and your day job on the other side. So I really appreciate you taking out the time.
I appreciate it. I love jumping on, and hopefully whatever I'm saying resonates with you or anyone else in the audience. So happy to be here.
So honestly, I think you are one of the more, let's say, advanced marketers in terms of people who've built tools, people who've seen product marketing really at the depths of it. And really, I want this conversation to be slightly practical so that more people can learn from the brilliant work that you've done. So to kick it off, I was curious to know is you are definitely sort of becoming an advocate for marketers who are non-technical to build their own workflows and maybe not use a lot of the SaaS tools that we use. Like, for example, for me and this podcast, I was so frustrated with using a tool like Calendly. I felt I'll just go spin up my own scheduling tool, use something like a Lovable or a Cursor for that. And I did it, and it was there. And I don't have to pay a subscription ever, literally. Right? Talk to me about, do you feel like the mid-market SaaS, the smaller tools that did a particular task really well, do you feel like that market is going to completely be wiped out by marketers essentially understanding like, hey, I can build my own tools that are customized to my needs and then go forward using with it to optimize the output the way I want it to be?
Absolutely. So early in the product marketing framework, you might have heard of pragmatic marketing. That's where it is. Some of it, the frameworks will be build versus buy. We are in a whole new type of, I'd say we're in build versus buy 2 or 3.0, where we are building and we may not be building. It might be our agents or coding assistants are building it for us. A lot of things. For instance, I was a big Google Reader fan. And we, as consumers, saw that a company just canned that project. That was Google canning that project. And we've seen others try to come up like Feedly and so forth. And it's just not the same. It doesn't give you the same RSS reader feel. I couldn't really save things accordingly. There were a ton of different apps that helped try to make it happen. I'd say like Pocket, what's another one? I essentially tried to find a different way. I then started seeing Obsidian is my tool of choice. I said, okay, let me save it later. I have a web clipper. That's a lot of things that I'm doing manually, but it's just because I love saving information and kind of creating like a daily digest of what I did. Fast forward to what I did now, which was I have tons of skills giving me what I need to know. If it's my local news, if I'm flying today, I just create a skill of I'm flying here, give me all I need to know here. These are things I would have done anyway, but now I have it like a personal assistant in my Obsidian notebook, and it could scale to anything. You could use N8N if you wanted to do this at scale. If those who are more familiar using GitHub Actions. These are things that I didn't necessarily know, but I knew audiences who needed to, which were, if I was speaking to developers, I needed to be fluent of what are the options out there, because not only are folks looking for a pragmatic way to do things, meaning affordable or even better, free. Another way to do it is doing free at scale that is still secure and still able to be reliable. Some people might think that means, it's no longer, the barrier to entry has closed so much. And for the mid-market, they're being squeezed on both ends now. They are taking so long to develop a use case now. You don't need to do that because the use case could be live when you show a demo. I think that we're seeing the transformation here as mid-market B2B SaaS has never really tapped into the YouTube market or anything around video. It's a lot of interviews. Some people just don't have the time for that. They want to see, does this work for me? The builder side again. And I think also there's a lot of things that people are just itching to get out of. At my company right now, I'm head of product marketing at a company called Root. And one of the core pillars that I used was vendor lock-in. No one wants to make that full infrastructure choice to stay in one operating system or one vendor now, because we can use different types, even for those who are using Claude. I encourage you to not just use Claude Code or a Claude MD file. Think about LLM file, because you can use OpenRouter, OpenCode, Cursor, leveraging the same skill in agent. So I think many people are thinking back to this build mentality. I can build with so many different ways. It's almost fatiguing to think of the options. And that just wasn't the case before. It was, I want to build. Who are the players to help me build this? Players meaning incumbents, maybe some startups, and go from there. Now it's most people will go take an agent and look at what's the trending GitHub repo to help me get there. That's a completely different turnaround than I'd say 3 years ago. I'm not talking decades ago. It might even be 2 years ago, 2 months ago, where people would still think of like, what is the best way to do it? Now you're seeing searches going down. People are using GEO instead for their website optimization. I think going forward, it's also going to be thinking about SaaS was helping to make things easier. AI and other building tools will help me just make things custom built for me, maybe leveraging what's already available and custom building for my environment and making that just as palpable. And encourage anyone who's listening, who's been thinking about building something like that, try it out. Build your own newsletter for yourself. I mean, build your own newsletter wherever you want, on Substack or whatever. But on this case, build your own news digest to see the power of, wow, I don't really need to subscribe to anything. I don't really need to be advertised in my inbox anymore. I get to clean this up and own it again. And I think that ownership, the authority and the control is what we're feeling. People are looking at that on buyer committees too. Like, I don't need to be limited by licenses. I don't need to build and pay for professional services. And I think that's really going to change the game going into the rest of 2026 and onward.
Yeah, I think there are like a couple of things I could go down on, but I really feel like this is almost like a consultant's nightmare, almost, where the idea of you can optimize every single workflow to your specification and not be bogged down by bureaucratic structures that really restrict the kind of output you can build. It's a complete refresh of the way, at least from an operational perspective, how we think about marketing a product, building a product, getting it to market, getting feedback from people. Like, at every single function of the growth loop, everything gets disrupted. Amazing. Okay, one other thing that I did want to dive slightly deeper onto is you've talked about the idea of engineering your way out of suboptimal output. Whenever you're trying to engineer a workflow, build an agent, do something that can make your life easier. Let's take let's say your personalized RSS feed, for example. I have that built out. But now, for me personally, a lot of the information that I get in it isn't right there where I want it to be, and it's not like almost perfect. Walk me through, what is your process when you hit a snag like that? How do you engineer your way out of it?
So there's a term when you, especially if you've ever been in product or worked with a technical team, there's scope creep and there's also over engineering. So I will always I have to remind myself and I have to encourage others, what is the MVP that you're going towards? It doesn't have to even be the MVP, like the first version. You might be you have a fully production ready product. And what is the next MVP as you tinker, as you change things out and you iterate? And that's been my framework. Granted, like, I've done tons of things with product anyway. So when I taught at product school, for instance, this was the exact framework, especially for those who are trying to transition into product, be it consultants from big consulting houses to anything else. I kept on instilling, what is the goal? What is the parameters you're going for? And then stop, take a breath, get feedback, and then go in. Because if you're not, the iterative process you can keep going, or you're doing it daily. So for instance, let's take, I'll give 2 examples. I did, I built my RSS feed, my daily news. Yes, I could have gone different places. I just started with natural language. I read these things and I want to stop using it on social media. I just want to read it in my inbox or my note file. Great. Using this, that was the parameters I wanted. Here are those sources. Here are the things I want and structure wise. Does it work? Great. That doesn't work could take a little bit. And then after that, you start refining. Is this useful? Is this what I need? Do I need this in the right destination? Those are things you can do after step one. Does it work? It's kind of like, did you do all the steps right to make hello world happen? Great. You can go further. Do you have, make sure you have another cup of coffee to go in, but making sure that that was the main goal of the day. Just do that. It's almost like a daily stand-up for yourself and your personal projects, because the scope creep is real. You can jump on any tool that's out there. You go on LinkedIn, everyone's doing another, oh man, I feel like I have Agentic FOMO. I need to do this now. Do what you can, but make sure it works for you and whoever you're building it for. Maybe you're building it for your family just to do better scheduling, like you were saying with your scheduler. Try it out. Does it work? Does it do what you need to do? Do you have the credits to do it too? Like, are you in the right AI plan to do it? All of those things just matter. The other one I did with my Filipino news digest, I do it every week, and I started combining other data sources because I start wanting to answer everyone, when's the best time to go to the Philippines? Where should I go? I said, here's my news site. This is for me, that I thought it would be a service for anyone else who's traveling or some of my friends. Go there. And it's there. You don't have to refresh it daily. You don't have to refresh it, other than news, which should be a little refreshed. Understand, what is it useful for? Does it do the job? Get feedback, iterate when you have more. Because you tinkering a lot more, that's a lot of you spinning your wheels and credits and tokens. If you don't have enough, you don't need to. It's more about, presence is half the battle. Frequency is perfect. But if you don't have the feedback to help you guide it, you're going to be just spinning your wheels a lot more. Go out and enjoy the sunshine. That's what AI is for, to help you automate as much. And then you also connect with others and go out and enjoy the day as well.
A lot of marketers, especially ones that are obsessed with operational efficiency, they're thinking about, okay, and they're inspired by that Claude example, right? Where Austin, I believe, built a workflow that was a one-person marketing team that could do the job of 10 people. But what they tend to forget is that Austin essentially used developer mindset, almost learned the processes and built iteratively to get to the stage where he got to. It cannot be something that any marketer picks up and then builds tools that can replace 10 people. So talk to me about, how does a marketer narrow down what is worth optimizing and automating and what is not worth automating and optimizing? Because I feel like so many marketers feel like AI is magic and it can replace like 5 people within the team. So how does somebody narrow and nail that down?
So I always suggest, brainstorm, what is it that you want to do? What's the endpoint? I am here, I'm struggling with this, and here are the things that I need to get there. Point A to point B. There's many different routes. Engineers will always take the most direct route. Maybe some will try to take a route that will help you get more channel or partnerships involved, depending on just where you're going to, or what you're operating in. In terms of what you're trying to do with the people, headcount, or tools and processes, really think about it as, have you done it yet? Do you know what you want to build and what are the current things out there? Is it a SQL query to Excel? Maybe that's as easy as that. I'm really just looking for a better way to get an API result into an Excel file as quickly as possible. Great. So now you have an idea of, I need to find the sources to extract the data and then move there. I wouldn't say it's a developer mindset. It's more of understanding what you need, how to get it to get there, and why. And I think those are, I'm biased as a product manager first. That's a product mindset of asking the questions to really understand what is it that you want to do, why you want to go there. And then you start thinking about all the different ways that you have in your tool set. Or even better, if you're a budget restraint, that's going to help you decide even faster. These are the things I need. I could buy a data set. I could create a dashboard around this, but I don't have the time nor capacity for that. I really just need this. Great. So navigating for most marketers may not come naturally. This is where you can ask our many LLMs to understand what are the possibilities. Then you having That's like you asking a few experts in the field, hey, I want to do this. What do you think? It'll ask you questions. It'll give you get some context and then help you decide on an answer. I always shop around for 2 or 3 different ones in browser or through the terminal to give me better answers. And then it helps me fine tune, okay, it sounds like I have 3 options to go here. Then I make my decision. That decision is, all right, this is how I'm going to do it. If the first option doesn't work, I'm going to backtrack to these 2, and here's why. That reasoning is super impactful for any LLM to understand why you're choosing it, and will help reinforce your decisions going forward because of the memory that it's having. And that's just like you talking to any person saying, hey, I have a question. Got it. Oh, you know what? I did remember you actually, like, you have some database skills. So actually plug this in here. I'm going to query it, and then I'm going to give you this result. Or say my final output is a Google Doc or a presentation. Great. So give me the output super close to slide format so I can plug away, maybe optimize some wording, and then I'm pretty close to being done. Those are things that I think once you know what you want to do, and also building it yourself in some capacity, that way you can then understand, okay, that this is the workflow, then I can automate. Some people say it takes 3 hours or so to build one agent to the timing that you want versus having a team. I've seen other things like it's easier to build something than have a meeting about building something now. That's true. But building something with the context that's needed to make something production ready or internal tool ready, that takes time and effort for you to understand first. So as much as it's always easy to hire someone to do it yourself, it's easier to, or building a tool to do it, try first, know how hard it is, see the gotchas, and then I encourage you to then automate the world away.
Yeah, because the whole idea of perceived quality of output, especially earlier on when somebody's trying a tool or trying to build a workflow or trying to build a solution for them, there was an epiphany moment like, oh my God, I never expected I could build something like this on my own and not have to get another SaaS tool to solve this particular problem. And then eventually you realize that, okay, the output's really not there yet. And you personally also, because you do not understand all of the steps that it'll take to get there, that you'll eventually fail at some point, especially without any kind of feedback. Fair enough. Okay. One thing I did want to ask you is putting on your product marketing hat on for a minute and thinking about if you're currently working for a B2B SaaS tool or building a B2B SaaS tool of some kind, whether that's AI native or maybe let's say AI enabled. How are you thinking about a market where anybody can build anything, especially people with resources can build anything with those resources? How do you market yourselves? How do you make sure that from a PLG perspective, you're heading in the right direction? Because it almost feels like an impossible problem to solve at this point.
It's something that's coming up more and more. Company I'm working at right now, we are an AI. We're an AI security company. We do not secure AI. We use AI to do our job in a matter from what takes usually months to minutes. That was kind of novel. 2025, 2026 is I can build my own agent. I have my agentic fleet. What makes you so different? And I think what will set most people apart, just like the frontier models will say, like, you can use open source, you can use local, but the reason why you should use us is the industrial scale that they're running at, the production scale that almost any B2B SaaS already has a leg up on, or anyone who's been doing it enough. They have not only the context, but they've done it at a scale where it's not just 1 or 2, maybe 100. We're doing things at 1,000 inputs a minute, and we are paying for it too. This isn't something that you can put on your Mac Mini. That will be the difference. You see a lot, especially I'll give a security example. Someone has built their own scanner, or they're building their own security tooling. This is important and helpful because you know your environment unlike anyone else. But are you doing it at how many requests are you looking at? 100, 1,000? Some people at the enterprise level are getting millions. Think about PayPal again. Like, you're not doing 1 or 2 transactions. These are possibly millions in an hour or say. So those are, I would suggest, like, there is still, I wouldn't say just B2B SaaS. I think anyone who has been doing it for the past year, they've been doing something that is at a production scale, industrial scale. Not to say no one else can catch up, but that industrial scale also requires resources that is just not common to have as a individual, as a home labber, or someone who's starting their own NOS and setting stuff up at home. It's just not at the same caliber or production scale. Granted, if you're doing this for your home and your family, why not? You're not really getting a tons of requests. And if you are, protect yourself accordingly, because that shouldn't be the case. And that way, I think that's where you can keep building for your own customized environment, as long as it protects you and also serves you. So if you're doing something at the scale of a home project, a sandbox project, or a hobby, that's awesome. That's why open source always came up with a free hobbyist tier. If there's something that requires more attention, more storage, more just more of a tech stack that helps you scale accordingly, that's where the pricing comes in. And that's where I think most incumbents or startups who have the capital will still beat out.
What I wanted to understand was, in terms of discovery of products as a whole, let's say we enter into a future where everybody has built a news tool or a reader tool like you or me, where we are getting distilled, very hyper personalized, specific information that we want to see. And this could be across platforms: LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, newsletters, articles, all of that combined. Let's say we get into a future where more people have access to that. What do you think, in terms of campaign design and marketing as a whole, when you're trying to essentially reach your audience and build that resonance with your company? How are people going to be doing that? Do you feel like there's going to be a new paradigm? Do you feel like we're going to keep on doing LinkedIn and Twitter, or do you feel like it's going to be something completely new?
So you spent some time in San Francisco, and you see there's a vibe here. People are talking about things that I think others are just finding out about, like in some newsletter or something. But we're hearing about it in cafes. We're hearing about it at parties, even on like lamppost signs or street posts, because people are posting it there just to get eyes, not on screens, not something we might have blockers or anything else. And we all know email outreach and so forth, like it's just not getting the right audience anyway. To really stand out, it's going to go back to experiential, like activation marketing. And that's going to be on the field. It's going to be, I'm going to shout out Clerk. I think they did a great job developer marketing. They had a car with the Clerk message with their logo right in front of Y Combinator's building. Genius. They didn't buy a billboard, they bought a car, and they just stood out there. That's how people got across. There was no like, how do I think about usage and pricing and all of that? They solved it by just being present there. And I think that's just going to continue going on. I think back in when the heyday of meetups, San Francisco was filled with them, with just like two big extra large pizzas, and people would demo all the time. And I think that's coming back. It's the rise of like, hey, I've hosted a ton of events just for that also. And that's how you're coming across. You're having a reserved audience that you're ready to like just hear, be it cloud native, AI demos, AI for a special, like if it's SRE or developers. Those are the way that stand out. The main question that you've asked, or the themes, are around marketing. How are marketers finding out about it? And it's going to come from a variety of places. If it's learning, if it's certifications, if it's just something that someone else posted on LinkedIn, being able to just hear about it, understand the use of it, and is it useful for you? If it's not, it's just like, cool, I'm going to remember it, I'm going to think about it, but it's not as important as if you can't really use it. And use it, try it out first. And that's like the full mechanism to like get into product led, right? You have to try it out. You get AI, and I think AI pricing is going to go consumption for a long time now. So understanding what is the use case, what is it to do it smart. Some examples are, some people hate using Clay on the free trial because they run out of credit so fast. Cool. Or Claude, if you're on the free trial or the free program, you see your context windows just shrinks all the time. That's where I think the frustration comes in, and that's the moat that some AI companies have built. That's where you're going to find not only like what you need, but also how products, if you think about the product aspect of it, smart, there's friction there. And it's just like, you know what, I'm going to buy it. Vercel does the same thing, or V0. It's like, sorry, you're out of credits. You get 2 credits a day until you amp up again, or you can buy credits. Those are the mechanisms that I think most product-led companies did in the past, along with demoing, like, hey, here's a demo, try it out, free sign up, a free trial. All of those things, being able to onboard effectively will help you even more. But to even get there, I think it's going to go back into getting in front of eyeballs, or being like real eyeballs, not just like ads. I think what's doing great is Reddit right now, because people are searching for information. And once you're there from an LLM search, you go in from an actual person responding. And it's a forum. You're then seeing other people, and then you seem to pop up either an ad or, this is how I solved it. And hey, shout out to said tool to help me get there. That's where you're coming across. So for those who are wondering how to mix up their budget more, if it's not events, think about influencers in your space. It's no longer the big consulting firms or analyst firms like Gartner and Forrester. It's going to be others, and consider them too. And most of our viewership will not be on LinkedIn. They are on social media sites. So consider that as well, because that's where I'm getting targeted the most. Because even if I'm in a meeting or anywhere else, if I'm on transit, I will be on social media. How do I consume it? What am I getting presented with? And are they resonating with my problem to help me find a solution?
What it sounds like to me is you're almost saying, like, on the one side, we are progressing with AI and everything becoming agentic. In terms of a marketing, advertising, branding perspective, we're going back to events, papers, billboards, almost like guerrilla marketing used to be a huge thing back in like 2015, 16. And we're almost going back to that world on the other side. It's fascinating. I also almost feel like if we get into a future, and it's a big if, where let's say everybody has OpenClaw, everybody can get any task done from anything, anywhere, using something like OpenClaw, then nobody's using your product. It's agents using your product. And the whole paradigm shift for us as product marketers becomes, how do we build for something like that? How do we optimize for something like that? How do we ensure that we're getting the output that we want? Like, we are still getting customers, and we're still looking at metrics that we can optimize. So what do you feel like? How do you see this playing out?
As a product marketer, your buying committee might not have a LinkedIn anymore. They might not even have a job title. They have a context file, and they're running all day, every day. There isn't like an out of office notification for them anymore. And so my talk track was all around, how do you sell to a buying committee or buyers that the procurement has kind of changed? It's kind of, you have to demystify it more. And even if the humans are there taking meetings, trying to see the demo, playing with it themselves, the decision might not fall to them anymore. It might be AI augmented. So just think about it. You're not necessarily selling to, you have to go back to the, like, what are you saying? Are you saying it? Are you proving it out? This is where documentation comes in, where you say you have an integration. Okay, let me try it out. Let me sandbox it with something that I already have, and I'm going to deploy it. This is no longer me trying it out, and maybe I'll do it on the weekend to see what happens. This could be instant. This is where you have to show the proper code snippets, show things that will help you prove this out more. And that's where an agent comes in. That'll help feed the decision of, yes, they have it, check. Yes, it works. Yes. And then yes, it works in our environment. That kind of shrinks the buying cycle from a sales engineering POV into something much shorter now. I think that's where you're coming in and trying to see what are things that are self-service, and it will help expedite and accelerate the deal. And that's just, I'd say, like good product sense and good product offerings. So you could say, this is what we have, this is where we are going, and having it visible. LLM's text always helps, and other things just for visibility, and being able to solve the problem and finding folks who can solve the problem. There's something called Sage Tap now for security folks, where you help get research and you pitch people who are in the buying committees. It's kind of like and that's kind of cool, because then you get the feedback quickly, and they'll say like, hey, I'm interested in learning more. That if you don't have that opportunity, or if that's not in your wheelhouse or vertical, then you start looking for your customer advisory board, or you talk to your champions of checking in if this is useful. Are they using agents? What would they consider in that type of agentic search model? AI is not taking over the world. It will eventually with OpenClaw and so forth, but someone's orchestrating that. Someone has deployed in this agency to do that. That's where you still speak to the human to understand what was your process, what are you thinking, because that person has deployed accordingly, and being able to get ahead of that and understand, how did you orchestrate this? Why? What would you do differently? What would you like to see if you're looking for a new tool? That way that you can understand that it's not no longer a user journey, it's an agentic journey. And how do you intercept or make sure your inputs are available and readily available and testable to help you get there or to show up.
Makes sense. Do you also feel like for companies that are thinking about targeting buying committees and like you said, they have their own agents and really the workflow of how they would discover products and then ultimately implement them is completely changing. Do you also feel like in terms of the LLM companies and how they are thinking about their product and how it can be useful to other people. I'm not sure if they currently have, like, they currently give access to like chat and those data metrics to teams and to help them with targeting. Eventually, maybe they do with ads coming up. But what I'm curious to know is in terms of getting your product to the right audience and understanding their personalized context, do you feel like there is any way, in addition to the data that people get from these LLMs, that they can optimize for their very specific ICP that they're trying to target with their product?
I think so. I think you can always optimize more. But I think what's coming across also is we're tired of AI slop. We're tired of just tons of text, blogs that are reading 2 images with 1,000 words. There's just no proof point. That's just like it's a lot of words. I wish I had this in university and when I needed to hit like 1,000 word essays or something, it would have helped me a lot. Now I think being succinct and concise is a skill. And being able to say it, show it in words that are discoverable, but also videos with a transcript, that can massively help as well because there's proof points that are visually there. It's not fake. It's not like, I think people are yearning for this human in the loop aspect, even though, like, let's say AI companies are all dominating San Francisco's office market and they're making people go back to the office, which is odd. You're like, but an AI company fully remote makes more sense. No, because you want to be in person. And I think that's where, again, like, it's weird. Like, marketing's now back into the brand activation and the events, and because you want to have that in-person effect and connection. And I think that's where using AI will just help you check boxes. And then for the ultimate decision will be left to a human still, for at least for the time being. Maybe later on, it might just be you're looking at checks. If there's all green checks, you're like, okay, I don't see a reason why I have to intervene. Just go ahead. But it goes into like understanding what are those checks, what is being shown, what's the criteria to hopefully intervene on that side.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay. Final question to wrap this up.
Sure.
In terms of any product marketers, growth marketers that are watching this podcast, what is something that they can do on Monday morning that helps them get more efficient, helps them reach their audience better, and essentially increase the volume and quality of output that they're expected to hit?
If you're not familiar yet, just start getting familiar with Markdown files. It's not as scary as you think. It is, you can find any Markdown preview. You can do markdownlive.com, I believe, helps you just transfer it into regular text format. Just get used to it. Once you get familiar there, you're going to be able to read things and understand any AI output. And then if you format into a Markdown file instead of a docx, for instance, saves a lot of time. You don't have to do a lot of work. And you can always transform that into any other file type after. If you are familiar, congratulations. I would then test a small project. Like, we always think of doing work for our jobs. That's awesome. That's, keeps us employed. But to your point, Arnav, you mentioned, it's kind of scary for consultants. What are you going to do next? Think about that. Like, what is happening in the world? Blog about it, write about it. What would you change differently? Maybe it's you just creating a project to do it yourself. Like, that was just me starting to blog myself. Like, I think there's an opportunity here. Whenever I'm searching for questions for answers, I don't see this answer. So try that, because you are also your own brand. As marketers, it's scary. We keep on thinking like, oh my gosh, is there going to be a CMO AI soon? What does that happen to our career trajectory? And I would suggest, like, it's not scary. It is something where you can harness the power of this and use it to your advantage based on your experience, based on what you're interested in, especially for those early career. If you don't have that experience, use that to your advantage. You have the energy and empathy to really think about, I know this problem and I know there could be a better way. Let's start building it small, building it in public. Those are things that everyone's getting used to. And I feel like B2B SaaS marketers haven't done that yet, other than LinkedIn. Try it on any other channel. Try it for yourself. Tinker around with it, because then you're just going to get a little bit more fluent on what you need. Is it Claude Code? Is it Claude Cowork? Is it, you know what, forget it all. I actually like using the editor versus any browser. Whatever that looks like, check it out, because that is for you to know and harness the power and understand what works for you. It'll then, you know, what doesn't work for you, and you can start paying or finding folks in for your team to be, you know, I might need a GTM engineer to tinker around with this more, and I just don't have the time to really think about it. I know how to build it. I've tried it. I know the complexities there. I need to do more. So I would highly encourage you to think about what you can do, play with it, see what works for your, if it's even just setting up a one-on-one recording, all the recordings you're doing, you're like, I just need this faster. I need more insights served to me. Try that. Whatever your company allows as well. So that way you're able to see what's available. How did you find it? Where did you, like, how complex was it to download or to install? Those are things that, guess what, your users will most likely go through also. And that's where you're going to start understanding and empathizing.
Awesome.
And for anything else, you can follow me. And sorry to interrupt. You can always follow me. I always publish some random blogs. That's, I think, how Arnav found me. So yeah, if you can't find, I mean, maybe it's my search. My GEO hasn't been set up yet, but follow me for more. Follow Arnav for more. I'm sure he has tons of great guests to help you answer your questions.
Absolutely. We'll also include both Beatrice's blog and LinkedIn in the description, so you can definitely check that out. Thank you so much for doing this. This was really practical. I loved how practical and nitty gritty we got into the weeds of how to think and how to act and how to build. So this was amazing.
I'm excited for more. All the best, and thanks for having me.